Om Shanti, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to another Yoga Small Talk, and we continue with 7 minutes Bhagavad Gita a day. In this talk, we will be concluding the teachings of chapter 4, the Yoga of the Division of Wisdom, and we will read together first verse 41. He who has renounced actions by yoga, whose doubts are rent asunder by knowledge, and who is self-possessed, actions do not bind him, O Arjuna. So this chapter offered us a very, very in-depth insight into what is action and what is inaction. What does it mean to be active? What does it mean to be in the cycle of karma and rebirth? And what does it mean to be established in inaction and transcend karma and rebirth? And this is like a summary. So when we renounce action, and this is not a mental decision, this is wisdom. So first, of course, wisdom will lead us to decide to do the practices that will eventually allow us to renounce actions. But it is wisdom. It is not the mind saying I'm not doing, as we read before, the mind saying, okay, I'll sit still, but still inside is running and running, which is action. It is inaction, which is based on the loss of the sense of agency, whose doubts are rent asunder by knowledge, meaning that through the practices and devotion and the faith in the teacher, in the teachings, and in my ability to follow those teachings. So when through such teachings I'm able to transcend my mind, then there will be no more karma. Swami Sivananda tells us, he who has attained to self-realization renounces all actions by means of yoga or knowledge of Brahman. So it's not an active renunciation, the actions will just drop. As is established in the knowledge of the identity of the individual soul with the Supreme Soul, all his doubts are cut asunder. He has transcended the doubting mind. Actions do not bind him as they are burnt in the fire of wisdom, as we saw in the previous verses, and as he is always watchful over himself. So this is kind of the summary of the main principles that we have seen in this chapter. And it concludes with verse 42. Therefore, with the sword of knowledge of the self, self with capital S, the Supreme Self. So 42, therefore, with the sword of knowledge of the self, cut asunder the doubt of the self born of ignorance residing in thy heart, and take refuge in yoga. Arise, O Arjuna. So Lord Krishna is concluding this chapter with a very, very clear instruction. He is telling Arjuna, obtain knowledge and use this knowledge as a sword to cut the doubt. This is what Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, and once you are doing that, you will be able to arise. Arise from what? From your grief, from your despondency that we have seen in chapter 1 and 2. So, Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't continue to stand here helpless and confused and miserable. Obtain knowledge. Use this knowledge. Overcome your doubt as to what should be done and what should not be done. Rise up and do your duty. Swami Sivananda tells us, again, doubt causes a great deal of mental torment. Remember, we've seen this also in verse 40. It is most sinful, meaning it brings the most pain. It is born of ignorance. It is born of being completely in the hands of the doubting mind. Kill it ruthlessly with the knowledge of the self, of the Supreme. Now stand up and fight, O Arjuna. So this is to tell us, we haven't given you all this teaching as a nice theory so you can play with it intellectually. This is not at all the purpose. The purpose is to prompt you to do the proper action, which is to follow the Dharma. Go and fight, Arjuna. You are not yet established in the knowledge. You are not yet able to follow the path of inaction, which was described here in so many details. For you, Arjuna, action. This action will lead you to the supreme happiness in time, again, as was described here in many details. But don't take those teachings and put them in the back of your mind as some sort of an intellectual treat. No. This is a prompting for action. This is a prompting for you to go and do your dharma, to do your duty, to act in the way that will allow you to transcend action. So Lord Krishna is reminding Arjuna, why am I giving you all this teaching? So you can do the right thing, so you can do your duty. So take all these teachings, put them in action. Arise, arise, fight, O Arjuna. And this is the end of the 4th chapter. Fortunately for us, Arjuna's questions continue, so we receive more teachings from the great Lord himself in the next chapters. Please join us for the next teachings. Om Shanti.